moving around my office today recording because of the sun. You can see it over there on the wall. But I'll never complain about the sun in Minnesota in winter. It feels pretty good actually. It's only 5 degrees Fahrenheit here, which is negative 15 degrees Celsius. So wherever you are in the world watching this video, I hope you're warmer than we are here. Let's talk about workforce planning. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, wages account for more than 50% of certain industries' total expenses. So industries like healthcare and education, wages are an enormous expense. And so you can imagine then it's important that we have the right number of people in the right job at the right time, because people are kind of expensive. Very great resources, but costly. So workforce planning takes us through a process where we look at all of those internal and external factors to make sure that we have those people in the right seats. We also want to make sure that we avoid layoffs, unnecessary hiring, and we're also examining the external marketplace, the external labor market. Who's out there, who's available, what are the demographic shifts, also cultural changes and things like that. So there are many factors to take a look at, and it all comes together in this video on workforce planning. So let's take a look at the core functions of workforce planning. Remember in the strategy video 1.2 how I stressed the importance of understanding your business and its strategic plan? Successful workforce planning actually links your workforce requirements to that plan. We also spend some time identifying and evaluating internal and external factors in the environment that may affect our business. Successful workforce planning pays attention to the feedback from the environment and is responsive to it. HR's goal is to deliver workforce behaviors that are needed to execute strategy. And so to achieve that strategy, we need to figure out what are the competencies, the behaviors that we have now, what do we need in the future, and where is that gap? The goal in workforce planning is to shorten that gap or to figure out a way to eliminate the gap. Again, wages are expensive, and we want to make sure that we have the right number of people in the jobs that we need them to be in. And so if we have too many, we have not enough, perhaps we're lucky, we're just exactly where we need to be. But workforce planning identifies the shortage and reduction strategies that we need to undertake. We'll be taking a look at the 5 steps in workforce planning: strategy, data collection, data analysis, implementation, and then evaluation. To add on to what we covered in the previous videos, we want to make sure our workforce planning strategy is in alignment with our overall company strategy. I've said that a few times now, but what do we actually do to achieve that? Well, I suggest that on the next slide here, let's take a look, that we conduct a workforce SWOT analysis. This includes an internal and external environmental scan. So let's just take an example here. So we have our internal component, external component. So internally within our organization, externally in the external environment, outside the organization, what might be a strength though? Let's start here. So S for strength, W weakness, O opportunity, T for threat. Okay, so strength, what do we need to do? What do we need to think about? So for a strength in our internal workforce, maybe we have people who have the competencies that we need. We have a very skilled workforce, a number of skilled employees. So that would be great. A weakness would be perhaps that the people we have in our workforce are aging, and so perhaps we have a lot of people who are about to leave the organization, and that could be a potential weakness. Now, externally, what might be an opportunity? An opportunity would be that to further the number of skilled workers within our current workforce, maybe we have partnered with a university or a school that offers training in the professions that we need. So we've developed a relationship there. Maybe a threat, though, would be a competitor is currently kind of trying to steal our employees. So a competitor is trying to nab some of our best people, and we may need to look then, of course, at how we are compensating them and rewarding them and all those different things, and making sure that their job design is good and they want to stay. So I encourage you to conduct a SWOT analysis for your own workforce to determine your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, both internally and externally. This is the time to gather all the data that you're going to need to accurately evaluate what steps to take in the short and long term. You'll need to not only look at the numbers within your current employee database to learn who's in your workforce, hopefully you're tracking these things, what are their competencies, what's your current turnover, all these things. But also, you need to have good relationships and talk to other members of your management team to learn what's their SWOT, what are their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in their particular teams. What do they see as current and upcoming challenges in their professions and related to the industry? What knowledge, skills, and abilities do they need their employees to have? Strengths that their current employees do have. This is why it's so critical that HR is part of the strategic planning process, and even better, in my opinion, facilitate strategic planning to ensure that workforce planning is a strong consideration in all operational, marketing, sales, finance, and other functions. All right, now it's time to analyze. And this is the time to identify your staffing gaps, your surpluses, competency gaps, competency surpluses. You need to look at all the information that you have gathered and start to develop and formulate some idea of and analyze what's happening. In step 4, this is what I call really your gap closing strategies. What are you going to actually implement? And so these are the things we need to think about. Do we need to recruit more employees? With those employees, what competencies and skill sets do they need? Maybe we need to change the way that we select people, how we retain employees. We have a turnover problem perhaps, and so how are we retaining employees? Should we perhaps try to grow more employees internally, organically within the organization through professional development and succession planning? So this is really the implementation stage of what do we actually need to do to meet the requirements of our strategic plan through workforce planning. Step 5 is evaluation. And I know it sounds like it's the last step, but it's actually something you should be doing throughout all of your programs and practices, constant evaluation. And so this is, in systems theory, we looked at the need to get information from our external and internal environments. And so here's some things you could think about. Let's just say, we'll just use a couple examples. Let's just say that you have a large percentage of employees who don't have the right competencies. That's what you've determined from your workforce analysis. So then you have to think about, are you recruiting the right employees? Maybe, are you using the right selection tools? Are you setting clear performance expectations? Weeding out poor performers, those kinds of things. Maybe you find out that you have a high number of people leaving the organization, a lot of turnover. Do people that you're recruiting actually understand the job that they're supposed to be doing? Are you getting the right people? Again, setting clear performance expectations, giving feedback. Are people being developed for future promotions, or do they feel that they have to leave the organization to go find a new opportunity? So these are the steps, the things to think about in the evaluation stage.